This year, all around the world, Jaguar drivers, collectors and enthusiasts will be celebrating the release of Jaguar's 1961-62 new range of saloons and sports cars. The cars were brought onto the market at the Geneva Motor Show and presented in late November of 1961 and presented the three models for the 1962 motoring season. The three models: the exciting and hugely popular Mark II, a four-door sports saloon; the fabulous and luxurious Mark X, Jaguar's largest saloon car; and of course the iconic and legendary British sports car, the E-Type Jaguar. As with other previous model releases to the market, Jaguar Cars in Coventry used the great motoring shows around the world. Firstly Geneva in '61, and then following on with Paris, London and New York. The ever-increasing number of Jaguar dealerships around the world had slowly increased from the late 1950s, and the market was waiting in great anticipation for the release of the three new models, no more so than in its new and emerging North American market. This new North American market was an area that Sir William Lyons himself was keen in developing, and hence the release of the Mark X, squarely aimed at this new market. Before continuing, we probably need to take a quick look back at some previous history from the 1950s. This era is known as the fabulous 50s for Jaguars, with the continuing building of the XK120, the new models of the XK140, and finally in the XK150, Jaguar was busy producing some of the world's most desirable sports cars in that era. This was an exciting time for Jaguar cars, and the whole world was beating a path to Coventry to pick up, inspect and purchase the new models. From royalty, statesmen, movie stars and the racing fraternity. Browns Lane was certainly the place to be in the 1950s. With the continued development of the 1951 C-Type and the development in 1954 of the legendary D-Type, Jaguar was setting their sights on conquering the great racing circuits around the world, and especially in Europe, commencing with the Le Mans and then producing to Silverstone and into the United States.
And so to Le Mans for the 21st time. From all over the world, tens of thousands of people have made the pilgrimage to see the Grand Prix d'Endurance come of age, and all but two of them seem to be milling round the cars. Somehow our Jaguars have reached their marks intact. The three team cars and number 20 from Belgium stand halfway down the line. Our Aston Martin friends take station on our left, while the formidable Ferraris join the Alphas on our right. Higher up the hill are the American Cunninghams, our other great rivals. In this lull before the storm, drivers relax, if they can. Ahead lies 24 hours of nervous tension and needlepoint concentration. For the next few minutes, there are others to do the worrying, and there's plenty to worry about. As time ticks by, we become acutely conscious of the 1,000 fallible parts of a car, of the 100,000 moments when they can fail. Only a few minutes to go now, and here come reinforcements to help clear the track. Well, this is it. Time to wrap it up. Drivers are getting their marching orders and listening to last words of advice based on strategy worked out months before. They gird themselves for the fray. The cars stand ready. Cunningham, Allard, Lancia, Talbot, Nash Healey, Ferrari and Alfa Romeo all lie ahead of us. Suddenly the crowd is hushed. The flag is up. Drivers on their marks. Sterling Moss wins the sprint, and he's away. Just watch him weaving his way through Alphas and Ferraris. The Le Mans start. What a fantastic sight. And here they come, a Cunningham in the lead, the whole pack snarling at his wheels. British green, French blue and the scarlet of Italy, blending into a haze of dust through which plunges a smaller fry, Porsches, Renault and a potpourri of Panhards. Tensely the crowd strain their eyes down the straight. And his Allard, a Ferrari, a Jaguar, Moss I think, then a Lancia, a Cunningham, Tom Cole, Tony Rose and Mike Hawthorne's Ferrari. Already the lap record is threatened. Second time round, Villarese leads, with Moss right on his tail. Then a Ferrari, a Jaguar, and the now ailing Allard, followed by the field. And on the fourth lap, Moss passes Villarese. So it's Jaguar, Ferrari, Ferrari, Jaguar. England versus Italy. And then as the leaders lap the smaller cars, number 18, Tony Rose Jaguar, breaks the lap record and flashes past us into third place. Already the field is spreading out round the circuit, for the leaders are averaging 106 miles an hour. And out on the straight, a Cunningham has clocked 154. But the killing pace is taking its toll. Cars already visiting the pits. Veyron's brakes are fading. Poor Allards have gone. Hawthorne is out. Then in the second hour, Moss, the leader, is in trouble. It's only a choked filter, but before we get him away, there's no sign of panic, even when 19 passes, and the big Cunningham is soon back in the race again. So the great race draws to a close. The first 7 cars have averaged more than 100 miles an hour. A Jaguar, a Jaguar, a Cunningham, a Jaguar, Marzotto's Ferrari, and the little Gordini. And Briggs Cunningham himself. Only a couple of dozen have stayed the course, and to finish is almost as much an honour as to have won. At 4 o'clock, Duncan Hamilton in number 18 Jaguar takes the checkered flag.
Unfortunately, in the late 1950s, the great success of the racing circuit performances by Jaguar around the world was overshadowed by events closer to home, with the sad loss of Sir William Lyons' eldest son John in a tragic accident en route to Le Mans. Sadly for Sir William Lyons, his own personal tragic loss was overshadowed by a destructive fire at the Browns Lane assembly plant in the late 1950s. Not only was there destruction of several hundred cars, but also it brought an end to production on 2 of the main assembly lines at the plant. It is a great testament to Sir William Lyons, not only about to deal with his own personal loss, but also at the same time to deal with the effects of the Browns Lane fire. Together his senior management, production team, his suppliers and the dealer network to get them to all work in the one direction, which is to start producing cars off the remaining production line, whilst at the same time building part of the new plant and getting ready to release the vehicles for 1962. Even through this particularly difficult time, the production team was able to stay on track, producing the last of the remaining XK140s, the saloon car of the time, the Mark 9, and of course a relatively new Mark 1. Production continued with great support from the dealer network around the globe, filling orders and making sales and profit, enabling the company to rejig the format for the release in 62 of the Mark 2, the Mark 10 and of course the E-Type. As the reconstruction of the 2 main assembly lines continued, it gave opportunity at the time for Jaguar to modernise certain parts of the plant, including the engine build section, also the paint shop, and the rejigging of the body types for the Mark 10, Mark 2 in a monocoque construction format, which would now be the new way that Jaguar would build their saloon and sports cars. From early to mid-1961, production was ramped up and an ever-increasing number of cars were coming off the production line. Jaguar had focused heavily on the North American market and gave a great push to the production of the Mark 10 for that market. The market was aimed at increasing its sales and its footprint on that North American market, which Sir William Lyons saw as so crucial to the future of Jaguar Cars Coventry. The great man himself, Sir William Lyons, had always had a hands-on approach to all the models that were produced by Jaguar, and this would be no exception for the new vehicles for 1962, the Mark II, the Mark X and the E-Type. The concept, design, styling, finished product, coach building and the engineering were all part of what made Jaguar the car that it was. Built into this was the DNA of Jaguar. This DNA can be seen in almost every model from the 1950s right through to the last XJ in 2008, the XJ358. This DNA, I think, has set Jaguar apart from its competitors and has produced a car that is timeless in its looks and styling. Whether it be the styling, the luxury or the absolute high performance of Jaguar cars, the DNA continues to be what sets Jaguar apart from its competition and will continue to make it a car of great success and luxury well into the future. There has always been a spirited conversation with Jaguar drivers and owners about what was the largest car Jaguar made. On an inch for inch, pound for pound basis, the Mark X was Jaguar's largest saloon car. Only slightly bigger in 2008 was the XJ358, an aluminium constructed car, but overall wider and slightly longer. So after 60 years, let's do a road test on the Mark X, delivered into Adelaide in 1962. Let's see how this car performs and stands up to the competition after 60 years. Okay, so let's have a look at what we got in Jaguar's Mark X Saloon when it was delivered into Australia in 1962. Compared to cars on the Australian market at the time, the Jaguar Mark X was pure luxury, high performance, well designed, very stylish. The car was in the echelons of Rolls-Royce and Cadillac in America. It really was a lot of car for a vehicle that was delivered into Australia and sold for under £2,000. So for a car that was delivered for under £2,000, what did we actually get? We got a very stylish four-door saloon, beautiful interior with a high performance pedigree. A four headlight configuration, standard with Jaguar for the time. A very wide open fluted grille, giving sufficient cooling to the 3.8 litre engine, which is a Jaguar design. The interior of the car was luxury at its best. From the moment that you opened the door and slowly eased yourself into a beautiful, wide, comfortable leather seat with armrests, you're presented with a wide range of gauges. It truly was the driver's cockpit. Surrounded by the leather, Earl walnut timber, beautiful plush woolen carpets with a heavy underlay, the car was luxury at its best, extremely quiet to drive, and you could ease away mile after mile in the luxury and performance of this car. In the rear compartment, it's a beautiful wide open bench seat with armrests, cocktail cabinets built into the front seats, a front and rear sound system, albeit just AM, and for the Australian market the car could come as an optional extra with a rear parcel shelf air conditioning system. All the windows were manually wind windows for the time and later became electric when they introduced in 1965 the 420G. The windows comprised of vent windows on the front and also vent windows in the rear passenger compartment. The rear of the car presented a massive boot capable of holding up to 26 individual pieces of luggage. On each side of the boot was the fuel tanks built into the fenders. Each had a capacity of 10 gallons on each side, and the engine was fed by two submersible electric fuel pumps. The spare wheel was in an upright position for easy access, and behind that had a full-size jack and a standard Jaguar toolkit. The rear of the car was complemented by a sloping boot lid going down to, once again, a heavy-duty chrome bumper with overriders, a central tail light with reversing and number plate lights, a combination of the blinker and brake light configuration.